I don't like it. It's okay. I like it. What's going on? It's okay, it's okay. Stop it. I like it. Who knows? Oh, whatever. What's going on? Am I doing this right? I like it. Am I doing this right? I like it. Am I doing this right? What's going on? It's okay, it's okay. Never again. It's okay, it's okay. I don't like it. I don't like it. Stop it. No. I like it. I'm doing it. Stop it. It's okay. It's okay. I'm doing this right. It's okay. Stop it. No. Stop it. Am I doing this right? Stop it. Am I doing this right? Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it. Oh no. I like it. I don't like it. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
I am curious. So here we are, in this particular moment in time, collectively feeling this formidable triple threat of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I don't need to tell you a lot about this. You already know the shorthand. Climate change, income disparity, protectionism, borders, culture wars, fake news. We don't know what's true, and we don't know what's coming. It's known that humans would rather feel predictable pain than uncertainty. So it's no wonder that we're feeling very uncomfortable. So I'm here to talk to you about fear and its antidotes. And I might even convince you that the next time you feel fear, you could smile. Smile because it'll be your cue to get curious and look more closely. I'm also going to talk about technology because technology is a big part of our lives. It's also a big source of change and therefore fear. I'm going to talk about how we can use technology and shape it to help us deal with things as they are. 17 years ago, I found myself on a bus on my way to work, unable to move. I should have been able to get off, it was my stop, but I couldn't breathe and my heart was racing. I was experiencing a panic attack. I didn't know it at the time, but I was lucky because I related the incident to a friend of mine and she said, "Oh, I have some tools for you." And she taught me how to meditate. That sent me on what I think will be a lifelong exploration of fear. So it turns out we swim in fear, so much so that we don't realize it most of the time. There's a constant hum of anxiety following us around. Every sensory input goes through this part of the brain called the amygdala, and it gets evaluated as a potential threat. I call that the "am I okay" hum. Am I okay? Am I okay? Am I okay? Are you okay? What's going on? It's like that. So right now, the "am I okay" hum is really loud. And we all have habitual reactions to fear. Some of us fight, some of us flee, some of us freeze, and some of us fawn. But can we get beyond those habitual reactions? It turns out that yes, we can, because there's another pathway involved in the process of fear, and it's what neuroscientists call the high road. And the high road goes through a part of the brain called the cortex, which is highly adaptive. So that means that we can train ourselves to have more nuanced reactions to fear. We can get familiar with the gap between the feeling of fear and our next action. We can get curious about the details, the texture of an experience, and eventually get to a place where we can focus on how we can help rather than how we can be harmed. The trick is to not turn away. Or if you're like my cat, the trick is to run away, stop, look, and come back. And we're all like cats. We do this all of the time. Going from fear to curiosity is felt as space, expanded space. So after I came across the complexity of fear, my work turned toward space. external space, the space we move in, and internal space, the space we feel most clearly when we're not moving. And these are arbitrary distinctions. Some of them call them the spaces of the body or the spaces of the mind. I tend to think that the mind is the body, or that they're so interwoven that they're always acting in tandem, so that if I move a certain way, I change my thoughts and feelings. And if I feel a certain way, it affects my physical stance. So it's a constantly evolving dance. So there's the internal space of fear, the subtlety of human experience, and then there's a situation of life, the technology we're surrounded with, the people, the buildings, the organizations. I'm fascinated by the contrast between the space of the body and the space of our interaction with technology, particularly virtual space. And one of my first investigations of the body in virtual space was a project called Chorus of Lungs that I did with Leela Sujir. And in that project, you stand facing a virtual stereoscopic chorus of breathing lungs, and the interaction is simple. You create space between your hands, or you decrease space. Expand or decrease. And as you do this, the lungs also take up more space or less. And the idea with that project was to explore the difference between what it feels like to be expanded and breathing and to be closed down. These days, I'm very excited about new trends in virtual reality technology, particularly mixed and augmented reality, because of the possibility of mixing physical and virtual spaces. For the past 10 years, we've extended ourselves into virtual space. We have accounts on countless websites. We leave digital traces of ourselves everywhere. We interact with each other based on those digital traces. And we've created a kind of the I of the extended self and the we of the network. I call that a kind of third space. And so far, this third space has been disembodied. We carry it in our minds, and we interact with it with devices in our pockets. With augmented and mixed reality, soon-ish, we'll be walking around the world with glasses and maybe even implants, and we'll be able to see virtual information located into physical space. So you could say that this third space that I talked about earlier, the I of the extended self and the we of the network, is getting a body. And just like our bodies help ground our experience and help us work with fear, so will the body of this third space help us process the information we're constantly swimming in a less overwhelming way. So what will this mean to our relationship to information, to knowledge, to action? I believe that a more embodied relationship to information will connect us with what's true, what's doable, and what's appropriate at any particular point in time. So I can see a world where we're connected globally, but have a felt sense of how to help locally. Just like we started sorting our garbage because it was made easy, we'll be more engaged with local governance, design, and social issues because it'll be embedded in the very fabric of the city. So if I'm out for a walk, I'll be able to tell if a soup kitchen needs help serving food that day, or maybe there's a design workshop open for participation. And this can be done through physical, virtual information layers embedded onto the city, or more interestingly, as chatbots that walk with us and talk about issues in more depth than any sign could. Connecting with the physical substrate of information becomes a way to rekindle trust and confidence in our ability to help. Trust builds by immediate and ongoing feedback and dialogue. And this kind of bottom-up approach, from working with ourselves to recognize and move through fear, and working with our neighborhoods to build trust and widen our influence, is healing. It's revolutionary, actually. It has the capacity of growing an entirely new system from the old. Every day we can connect with the intention of helping. How can I be of help can be a guiding principle throughout the day. I fully realize that this is an idealistic stance. And if you think of technology development as having a breath, there are moments where we're breathing in and moments where we're breathing out. And right now, we're starting to breathe in. So we can imagine, we need to be able to imagine the world that we want, even if it's not ultimately achievable. I can see a path forward, but it needs all of us to think about issues of privacy, sharing, who owns our extended self, and how we can increase equality and transparency. Okay. Every day, I do this breathing exercise, and I would like to share it with you. It's a simple exercise, but it's very powerful. So the idea is to breathe in dark and breathe out light. And we do this also involving the body. And when I say breathe in dark, it can just be that, or it can be your own suffering, or the suffering of others, or everything that you might not want to feel. But you breathe in, and then you breathe out light, the antidote, space. Okay? So I would like to do that 3 times with you. And as you breathe out, as you breathe in, you close your hand and your eyes, and as you breathe out, you open your hand and your eyes. Okay, so let's do that together 3 times. Okay. And then there's a bigger version of this exercise that involves the whole body. So, if you are able, I would like to invite you to stand up. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to breathe in dark and breathe out light. But this time, when we breathe in, we'll crouch. And when we breathe out, we spring up and use our voice. So let's do that 3 times. Okay? Okay, you can sit down. So I recommend doing that 10 times every morning. It feels great. So if you caught even a glimpse of what it is to go from a feeling of being trapped to one of possibility, then you know what it takes to go beyond fear to curiosity and insight. So get curious about that. Explore that.